What if the reason The Summer I Turned Pretty feels so addictive is because it never actually gives us the answer we're waiting for? For 3 seasons, we've watched Belly stand at the centre of one of the most debated love triangles on TV. Conrad, the quiet and complicated first love, and Jeremiah, the warm, easy choice who feels like safety. And every time it feels like the story is about to finally choose, it pulls back. Season 3 doesn't resolve that tension, it amplifies it. Because this time the question isn't just who does Belly love, it's does she even understand what love means yet? And that's what makes this season feel less like a romance and more like a coming of age story wrapped in emotional chaos.
Jeremiah cheated on Belly. I have been cleaning up that guy's tears for the past 24 hours, and he cheated on my sister with Lacey Barone.
At its core, The Summer I Turned Pretty has always been about change. Not dramatic, life-altering twists, but the quiet, uncomfortable kind. The kind that happens slowly, over summers, in glances and missed timing. Season 3 takes that idea and pushes it further than ever before by introducing a time jump. Suddenly, we're no longer watching teenagers figuring out first love. We're watching young adults dealing with the consequences of the choices they've already made. Belly is no longer just the girl caught between 2 brothers. She's someone trying to build a future while still being pulled back by her past. And that tension between who she was and who she's trying to become drives almost everything this season does. Season 3 presents Belly as someone who is supposed to be more mature. She's in college, she has new relationships, new responsibilities, and a version of herself that feels more independent than before. But very quickly, the show starts to question whether that growth is actually real or just surface level. The turning point comes early with the reveal that Jeremiah cheated. This moment is important. Not just because of what it says about Jeremiah, but because of how Belly responds to it. Instead of walking away or taking time to process what happened, she accepts his proposal. And that decision feels less like a step forward and more like a reaction. It's as if Belly is trying to stabilize something that already feels like it's falling apart. The engagement becomes less about love and more about control, and holding on to something certain in a situation that suddenly isn't. Throughout the season, you can feel that tension building. She moves forward with wedding plans, tries to convince herself that this is what she wants, but there's always something unresolved beneath the surface. And that's what makes her arc so compelling. And I, as one, just love this story because of how emotionally driven it is and how much it engages you into the story. Because she's not making obviously wrong choices, she's making understandable ones, emotional ones, the kind that come from fear, from confusion, from not fully knowing yourself yet. By the time we reach the final episodes, it becomes clear that Belly isn't just choosing between Conrad and Jeremiah, she's choosing between versions of herself.
Lord, we love each other. We want to be together.
You are together. If you want to take the next step, move in together. Foster a cat. Why rush to get married?
Because I love him, and because he's my family, and I mean, that's what Susanna always said, right? Family is the most important thing.
Conrad's role in season 3 feels quieter, but more intentional. In earlier seasons, he was defined by distance, by his inability to communicate, by the emotional walls he kept up. But here, there's a shift. He's still reserved, still complex, but there's a sense that he's more grounded. And I agree with this because in the earlier seasons, he was just so distant from everyone, and it was just so he was so weird, and I just didn't feel like he was a good fit for Belly, at least when he was trying to develop himself, if you get what I mean. More aware and importantly more honest. That is kind of the facts of how he has grown as a person. What makes Conrad interesting this season isn't just his connection to Belly, but the way he represents something unfinished. He isn't just a romantic option. He's a question that was never fully answered because he's Belly's first love. So it's this whole what happens if I was with Conrad, situation. Their interactions carry weight, even when very little is being said. Small gestures, shared history, moments that feel familiar, all of it builds towards something that feels inevitable, even if the timing never quite lines up. The Paris storyline becomes the emotional peak of this dynamic. For a brief moment, everything feels simple, removed from their usual environment, away from expectations and past mistakes. They're able to exist in a version of their relationship that actually works. But that clarity does not last, because the same uncertainty that's always defined them comes back. Not because they don't care about each other, but because they're still figuring out what they want from life itself. And in that way, Conrad doesn't just represent the one who got away, he represents the version of love that requires growth and timing to truly work.
And I think I just need time to think.
Babe, this is Jeremiah we're talking about, okay? You've known him your entire life. This is your dream wedding.
No, it's not my dream wedding. I never even had a dream wedding. It wasn't like this.
Jeremiah enters season 3 in a position that, on the surface, feels secure. He's the one Belly is with, the one who stayed, the one who represents consistency of emotional uncertainty. But the stability turns out to be more fragile than it seems. The cheating incident isn't just a plot twist, it's a turning point that reveals underlying issues that were already there. Insecurity, comparison, and a quiet awareness that he might not be Belly's first choice. Which is literally the thing, because she's always in her heart loved Conrad, even though Jeremiah, in my opinion, is a probably much better boyfriend for her, but her heart's just probably always going to love Conrad. That's the thing, so yeah. What follows is a series of decisions that feel increasingly rushed. The proposal, in particular, carries a sense of urgency that feels like confidence and more like fear, as if committing quickly will somehow prevent everything from falling apart. And that's where Jeremiah's arc becomes tragic. Because his intentions aren't malicious, he genuinely loves Belly, but the way he tries to hold onto that love ends up pushing things further out of balance. Instead of creating security, it creates pressure. Instead of strengthening the relationship, it exposes its weaknesses. And by the end of the season, it becomes clear that what he represents, comfort, familiarity, stability, isn't enough on its own.
Tell me you don't still love him.
Jeremiah, I love you.
That's not what I asked. I know you love me. What I'm asking is, do you love him too?
Now, this is the part that I really love, because if this whole show was just centered around these two, I would still definitely watch it. Honestly, it would probably be a better show. But while the central love triangle drives the narrative, the side stories serve an important purpose. So let's get into Stephen and Taylor, because they are honestly my favorites in like the whole show. I would not care if Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah weren't in it. If it was just them, I would totally watch it. They're so cute together. Stephen and Taylor, for example, provide a contrast. Their relationship feels more grounded, more developed, like something that has actually grown over time rather than being shaped by uncertainty. Even when they face challenges, there's a sense of communication and mutual understanding that's often missing from the main storyline. Other characters and subplots add texture to the world, reinforcing the idea that life continues to move forward even when the main characters feel stuck. And that contrast makes Belly's situation stand out even more. Because while others are finding direction, she's still trying to figure out where she belongs. Despite its pacing issues and chaotic structure, Season 3 succeeds in one key area. It feels emotionally honest. The characters don't always make the right decisions. The story doesn't always move in a clean, satisfying direction, but that messiness reflects something real. Growing up isn't linear, relationships don't resolve neatly, and sometimes clarity only comes after confusion. The show leans into that idea, and even when it feels frustrating, that frustration is part of the experience. The finale doesn't offer a perfect conclusion. Instead, it presents a choice, one that feels less like a definitive ending and more like a step in an ongoing journey. Which is literally the thing, because I personally think that what makes this whole show is just the fact that it's kind of up to interpretation. A lot of like the things in the show is like what the fans want to see, and they can just think what they want to think and not actually like necessarily go along with the story, if that makes any sense. So like, yeah, it's an ongoing story. It kind of like leaves on a cliffhanger. Like you don't really know how it's necessarily going to end, how she's going to necessarily settle down with one guy. It's like this whole thing. Yeah. Belly's decision carries weight, but it also carries uncertainty. It doesn't erase the past and it doesn't guarantee the future either. And maybe that's the point, because this story was never really about finding the right person. It's about understanding yourself well enough to make that choice in the first place.
You will always be my girl.
So, in conclusion, season 3 of The Summer I Turned Pretty isn't perfect. It's messy, it's rushed in places, it leaves questions unanswered. But it also captures something that a lot of shows don't: the feeling of being in between stages of life when nothing feels fully certain yet. And maybe that's why it sticks with people. At least I think that's why it sticks with me, at least. So now I want to hear from you. Are you Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah, or do you think Belly still has more growing to do before any of it really matters?